If I told you there are people saving hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars every year using the exact same banks, utility companies, tax systems, and financial services as everyone else, you might assume they know a secret. They don't. In many cases, they simply know which questions to ask. And that's where things get interesting, because some of the most valuable financial advantages available today are not reserved for the wealthy. They're not reserved for financial experts. And they're certainly not reserved for people with special connections. They're available to ordinary people. The problem is that most people never claim them, not because they're hidden, not because they're difficult to access, but because nobody ever tells them where to look. Every year, people spend countless hours searching for ways to earn more money. They look for side hustles, investment opportunities, promotions, business ideas. And while there's nothing wrong with any of those things, there's another side of the equation that often gets ignored. Keeping more of the money you already have. Imagine finding an extra $500. Most people would be happy. Imagine finding an extra $1,000, even better. Now, imagine discovering several financial advantages that could potentially save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars over time without requiring additional work, additional risk, or additional investment capital. That gets people's attention, because wealth isn't only built by earning more, it's also built by reducing unnecessary losses. Warren Buffett once observed that saving money is not merely about spending less. It's about preserving resources that can be used more effectively elsewhere. And Charlie Munger often emphasized that avoiding mistakes can be just as valuable as making brilliant decisions. Today we're going to explore 7 overlooked financial advantages that many people never take advantage of. Some may apply to you, some may not, but every one of them demonstrates an important principle. The people who keep more of their money often aren't smarter than everyone else. They're simply more informed. Let's begin with one of the most overlooked financial advantages available today: property tax relief programs. For millions of homeowners, property taxes represent one of the largest recurring expenses they pay every year, and yet many people never investigate whether they qualify for local reductions, credits, freezes, exemptions, or relief programs. The details vary from region to region. Some programs are based on age. Others are based on income. Some are designed for long-term homeowners. Others focus on disability status, veterans, or specific residency requirements. The important point is this: many homeowners assume their annual property tax bill is fixed. They assume the amount printed on the statement is simply what they must pay. But in many jurisdictions, there are legal programs specifically designed to reduce that burden for qualifying residents. The surprising part is how many people never check. A homeowner may spend years paying the full amount simply because they never realized a reduction program existed. This isn't about loopholes. It's not about special treatment. These programs were created intentionally. The lawmakers who approved them wanted qualifying residents to use them. Yet every year, eligible people fail to apply. Why? Because most people never think to ask. And this reveals an important financial lesson. Never assume the first number you see is the final number. Whether it's a bill, a fee, a tax, or a financial service, sometimes the difference between paying full price and paying less comes down to one simple question: do I qualify for any reductions, credits, or relief programs? That question alone has saved some people substantial amounts of money over time. But property taxes are only the beginning, because the next financial advantage affects something nearly everyone pays for every single month: utilities. And what many people don't realize is that some utility providers offer programs that can significantly reduce costs for qualifying customers. Yet most customers never hear about them, not because they're secret, but because they never ask. And what makes this next advantage particularly interesting is that the savings often repeat month after month, year after year, meaning a single phone call can continue producing benefits long after you've forgotten you even made it utilities. Most people view utility bills as unavoidable expenses. Electricity, gas, water, heating, cooling, the bill arrives, you pay it, end of story. Or at least that's what most people assume. What many people don't realize is that utility providers in many regions offer assistance programs, budget billing options, fixed rate plans, seasonal discounts, energy credits, and customer support programs that can significantly reduce annual costs for qualifying households. Yet millions of customers never investigate them. Think about that for a moment. People will spend hours searching online for ways to save $10 on a purchase. But they rarely spend 15 minutes investigating recurring bills that show up every single month. And recurring expenses are where small savings become large savings. A reduction of $20 per month may not sound exciting, but over a year, that's $240. Over 5 years, that's $1,200. The wealthy understand something many people overlook. Large financial outcomes are often built from small recurring advantages, not dramatic breakthroughs, not lucky opportunities, repeated savings, repeated discipline, repeated improvements. The next time you receive a utility bill, don't just look at the amount due. Ask a different question. Are there any programs, discounts, budget plans, or assistance options available that could reduce my costs? You might be surprised by the answer. And speaking of recurring costs, let's talk about something that quietly drains money from millions of people every year: bank fees. Now, here's something interesting. Many people have had the same checking account for 10, 20, even 30 years. They opened it long ago. The account worked. They never changed it. And because they never changed it, they never reviewed it. That is where the problem begins. Financial institutions regularly update products, account types, fee structures, and eligibility requirements. But customers often remain in older account categories that may no longer be the best fit for their needs. As a result, they continue paying monthly maintenance fees, service fees, paper statement fees, or account charges they may no longer need to pay. The surprising part isn't that fees exist. The surprising part is how rarely people review them. Charlie Munger often talked about inertia, the tendency for people to keep doing what they've always done. And inertia can be expensive, not because you're making bad decisions, but because you're not revisiting old decisions. A checking account opened 20 years ago may deserve a second look. A savings account may deserve a second look. Even a credit card you've carried for years may deserve a second look. Sometimes the biggest savings opportunities come from reviewing financial arrangements you've completely stopped thinking about. And that brings us to something many people rarely question: membership fees, annual fees, subscription costs, loyalty charges. Premium services. Many companies rely on a simple reality. People become comfortable. They stop comparing, they stop negotiating, they stop asking questions. And when that happens, unnecessary costs often remain in place far longer than they should. Now, before we continue, there's something important to understand. None of these financial advantages are life-changing by themselves. One discount won't make you wealthy. One reduced fee won't transform your future. One savings program won't create financial freedom. But that's not the point. The point is accumulation, because financial success rarely comes from one massive decision. It usually comes from dozens of smaller decisions working together. And that leads us to a question that almost nobody asks often enough. If companies regularly update prices, products, and programs, how many financial opportunities are sitting in your life right now that you've never reviewed? Because the next advantage may be one of the most overlooked of all, not because it's difficult to access, but because people assume they don't qualify before they even check. And that assumption could be costing them far more than they realize. Mid-video retention loop in a moment. We're going to discuss a financial advantage that has helped some people save more money than all the previous examples combined. It's also one of the least understood. And the reason most people miss it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with a simple psychological mistake that nearly everyone makes. But before we get there, we need to talk about taxes. Because what most people don't know about tax exclusions, deductions, and credits may be costing them far more than any bank fee or utility bill ever could. Taxes' few subjects make people lose interest faster. And yet, few subjects have a greater impact on how much money you actually keep. Most people focus on what they earn. Far fewer focus on what they get to keep after taxes. And that is where things become interesting. Because tax systems around the world are filled with deductions, exclusions, credits, allowances, and relief programs that many eligible people never claim, not because they are hidden, not because they are impossible to understand, but because people assume taxes are fixed. They assume the number calculated is automatically the correct number. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and the difference can be substantial. Imagine two people earning similar incomes, living similar lifestyles, owning similar assets. One understands available tax advantages, the other does not. Over 10 or 20 years, the gap between them can become surprisingly large, not because one person earned dramatically more, but because one person consistently kept more. Warren Buffett has often pointed out that taxes are one of the most important factors affecting long-term wealth accumulation, not because taxes are bad, but because every dollar that stays invested has the opportunity to compound. And compounding changes everything. A small advantage repeated year after year can eventually become a significant difference, which is why reviewing available deductions, credits, and exclusions should never be viewed as an annual chore. It should be viewed as part of wealth management, because wealth is not only built by growth, it is also built by efficiency. And speaking of efficiency, let's talk about healthcare, because this next area may affect more people than almost anything we've discussed so far. Most people assume healthcare expenses are simply unavoidable, and to some extent they are. But what many people don't realize is that healthcare systems, insurance providers, prescription programs, and assistance initiatives often contain cost-saving opportunities that go completely unnoticed. A person may continue paying the same amount for a medication year after year without realizing there is a lower-cost alternative. Someone may continue using the same coverage option without reviewing whether a more suitable plan exists. Others may qualify for assistance programs and never investigate them. The issue is rarely intelligence. The issue is awareness. And awareness is often worth money, sometimes a lot of money. The important lesson here isn't about any specific program. The lesson is about asking questions. Questions create opportunities. Assumptions create expenses. One of the most expensive habits in personal finance is assuming there is nothing better available, because sometimes there is. And the people who discover it are usually not financial experts. They are simply curious enough to check. Now let's move to something almost everyone pays for at some point: cursive documents, administrative tasks, professional assistance, verification processes, small fees, convenience charges, processing costs. Individually, they seem insignificant, but collectively they add up. This is where many people unknowingly fall into what Charlie Munger would call a neglect trap. The fee is small. The effort to question it feels larger than the fee itself, so people pay it, again and again year after year, without ever asking whether a lower-cost alternative exists. This behavior appears everywhere: banking, insurance, utilities, government services. Memberships, subscriptions, the companies are not doing anything wrong, but they are not responsible for managing your money. You are, and that simple realization changes how you look at every recurring expense. Because once you begin reviewing costs intentionally, something interesting happens. You stop seeing expenses as permanent. You start seeing them as negotiable. Not always, but often enough to matter. And this brings us to the most important lesson in today's video. The biggest financial advantage isn't a discount. It isn't a tax break. It isn't a fee waiver. It isn't even a savings program. The biggest financial advantage is awareness, because awareness creates options. Most people spend years searching for hidden investment opportunities, but some of the easiest financial wins come from simply understanding the opportunities already available to them. The reality is that money leaks rarely happen all at once. They happen slowly: a fee here, a charge there, an unclaimed credit, an overlooked deduction, an unnecessary expense, a missed opportunity. Individually, they seem small. Together, they can become thousands of dollars over time. And that is why financially successful people develop one habit that separates them from everyone else. They review, they question, they verify. They don't automatically assume every bill is correct. They don't automatically assume every fee is necessary. And they don't automatically assume they've already found the best option. They remain curious, and curiosity often pays. So before you leave this video, take a moment and think about your own finances. When was the last time you reviewed your bank account, your insurance, your subscriptions, your utility plans, your tax situation, your healthcare costs, your recurring fees? Because one conversation, one review, or one question could potentially save more money than most people realize. And that is the real message behind these 7 overlooked financial advantages. Not that everyone will qualify, not that every opportunity will apply, but that the habit of checking may be worth far more than you think. If you found this video valuable, let us know in the comments. What's one fee or expense you've successfully reduced in the past? Your experience could help someone else save money too. And if you enjoy calm, practical lessons about money, wealth building, financial freedom, and keeping more of what you earn, subscribe to Quiet Wealth Method. Because building wealth isn't always about finding more money. Sometimes it's about stopping money from quietly slipping away.